Linda, from tomorrow our parents will be moving in with us. It's the house with a yard that I bought, so no complaints. If you don't like it, sleep outside, got it? On the day we moved into our new home, my husband Michael said that. I hadn't heard a word about living with the in-laws. The purchase of this house with a yard right in front of us was also something Michael decided on his own. Moreover, he dumped the entire house hunting task on me. He must think of me as some sort of maid. And he probably thinks I don't know anything. So, I told him. Then I'll start sleeping in the yard from today. But don't regret whoever I sleep with. What's with you? Getting all defiant? Just do as you're told as usual. Don't worry, you won't regret it, sleep all you want. But don't swallow your own spit, okay? I'll return those words to you. You are going to regret this, absolutely. And so, I began preparing immediately. Imagining Michael's panicked face tomorrow, the next day he came to the yard and immediately frowned. What he saw was the tent I had set up in the yard. He stopped in his tracks, frowning as he approached. Linda, what are you doing setting up a tent? You told me to sleep in the yard, so I'm just sleeping in my camping tent. By the way, this is my camping tent. I thought I'd use it since the yard is so spacious. I answered my husband's question flatly as I stepped out of the tent, smiling. Michael made an annoyed face and muttered, "Huh? You won't regret it, sleep all you want, don't swallow your own spit." He said such things but didn't actually think I would sleep in the yard. You're really stupid, you know. Even if camping is your hobby, isn't it embarrassing to set up a tent in your own yard? Michael mocked me with a loaded laugh, but I stood my ground in front of him. Because my counterattack against my husband had already begun. Seeing my husband still sporting a mocking smile, I smiled inwardly. At that moment, my in-laws also arrived at our new home. The in-laws also looked surprised the moment they saw the tent. Whether they knew the situation or not, it was undoubtedly an unusual sight. Seeing the in-laws, I felt relieved, thinking that their presence might soften my husband's attitude a bit. When I greeted my in-laws, they, still puzzled, asked about the situation. Linda, why did you set up a tent in the yard? Do you have a camping trip planned after this? You surely didn't sleep out here, did you? It was moving day yesterday, right? It was understandable for the in-laws to be curious. As I was choosing my words to explain, my husband spoke first. Linda wanted to sleep in the yard. She really likes camping, which is troublesome. Well, I can somewhat understand, given it's such a nice yard. I was appalled by my husband's calm demeanor as he lied, but the in-laws quietly accepted it. Knowing my fondness for camping. Make sure you don't catch a cold, they said caringly before entering the new house. Now, go and make dinner. And don't you say anything unnecessary to my parents, okay? Just stay quiet and follow my orders as always. My husband resumed his usual commanding tone once the in-laws were gone, but I quickly retorted. Got it, I'll prepare meals for 5 then. Hey, can't a housewife even count? It's just the 4 of us, you, me, and my parents. Stop being groggy and get the meal ready. You're just irritating me. Muttering complaints, my husband headed towards the new house. But in the next moment, he stopped and stared in shock as a man emerged from the tent, slowly unzipping it. Silence filled the yard. Seeing the man, my husband's face showed a mix of confusion and bewilderment. He tried to speak but couldn't find the words. Sorry for intruding, said the man. Why is Jim here? What's going on? This man was my husband's superior, Jim. A figure my husband could not look down upon. It's understandable that my husband was perplexed to see Jim coming out of the tent where I had slept. Could it be Jim and Linda having an affair? Remember Linda said yesterday, don't regret whoever I sleep with. Was that about an affair? What? What are you talking about? That's not possible. Jim arrived here about 30 minutes ago. I like camping too. I was just waiting in the tent until Masayoshi woke up. He arrived 30 minutes ago? Then, perhaps, he heard our conversation. My husband's face drained of color as if he could hear the sound of it. All our previous conversation had been overheard by Jim. I had heard from Linda before, but I didn't want to believe it until the end. That you were hiding your true nature and mistreating your wife. Jim spoke slowly and calmly, but his words were tinged with anger towards my husband. Panic raced across my husband's cheeks, and his body started to tremble. No, this is just. I was just being a bit strict, it's not mistreatment or anything. Just being a bit strict? It didn't seem that way to me. There was clear malice and condescension in your words. What did Linda do to deserve this? Jim's voice grew increasingly angry, causing my husband to shake even more. The attitude he had earlier, mocking me, was nowhere to be seen. He was like a frog being stared down by a snake, frozen in place. Unbelievable, Michael. You do excellent work at the company. But to behave like this towards your wife, frankly, I am disappointed. I really didn't intend to mistreat my wife. It's just that I've been frustrated with work not going well lately, and I guess I took it out on her. Sweating profusely, my husband was scrambling for excuses, his mind racing. Just as Jim said earlier, my husband is highly regarded at work. Not only for his job performance, but also for his personality. If one didn't know better, it would be hard to believe that he could be capable of such mistreatment. However, both Jim and I knew everything. All the facts my husband was hiding. And today, Jim's visit was related to those hidden facts. Jim then quietly mentioned a woman's name to my husband. Lily Smith. You know her well, don't you? Yes, she's an employee at a client I handle. Is there something wrong with her? She's my wife. Immediately, my husband's eyes widened with shock and confusion, unable to speak a word. His face changed instantly, filled with surprise and fear. Jim was looking at my husband with a cold gaze. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, my husband hesitantly began to speak. Lily is Jim's wife? No way, because you have different last names. Lily uses her maiden name at work. It seems everything goes smoother if she's called by the name everyone is familiar with. There are many women at her workplace who also use their maiden names. So, I didn't know anything, and I've done something terrible. In fact, my husband was having an affair with Lily Shimamoto, not knowing she was his boss's wife. Jim came today to talk about the affair. I was really shocked when Linda told me about your affair. That the other woman was my wife, no less. This isn't something that can be brushed off as ignorance. And regardless of who the other person is, having an affair is unacceptable. You heard it from Linda? Hey Linda, how long have you known? Since when? I've known for several months. Since around the time Michael began to grow cold after finding out about my infertility. The trigger for my husband's mistreatment was the discovery of my infertility. While I was undergoing infertility treatments, my husband was unsupportive and became increasingly distant, leaving me feeling isolated. One day, when he said he was going on a business trip, I accidentally witnessed him leaving for a romantic getaway. That's when I decided to investigate his affair. As a result, I found out that his mistress was his boss's wife. Fueled by this revelation, a desire for revenge grew within me. Then my husband brought up the idea of buying a house in the countryside. His suggestion became the catalyst for advancing my revenge plan. I monitored his actions and began planning my revenge, leading to the current situation. Michael, you said you wanted children, so I thought I should try harder with the infertility treatments. But instead of supporting me, you started ignoring me completely. You abandoned me for Lily, didn't you? You just said you never intended to mistreat me, but you were doing it deliberately, weren't you? You were pushing her to the brink, aiming for a divorce. Not telling her about living with your parents was part of the harassment, wasn't it? What do you say? That's not. With each word loaded with anger, my husband stumbled over his words. I could tell he was hit right on the mark. With a sharp glare, I looked at my husband while Jim's gaze mixed disappointment and contempt. My husband's face turned ashen, and his body trembled. Yet, he forced himself to speak, refusing to admit the truth. I admit I was harsh on Linda, but I categorically deny the affair allegations. It's just a baseless accusation from Linda and Jim. There's no evidence, right? Linda claimed I was on a romantic trip, but I merely encountered Lily by chance on a business trip. We had meetings and went out for drinks because of work. But I never had an affair. I see, indeed, there's no evidence. We haven't prepared such a thing. Right, there's no evidence. But you are definitely having an affair. Admit it and apologize to Jim first. Linda, enough now. I didn't have an affair. If you want me to admit it, show me the evidence. Don't get cocky and order me around. Enraged, my husband lashed out at me without restraint. The air was electric with Michael's demonic fury. A clear sign he was cornered with no room left to hide his true nature. He was unwittingly tightening the noose around his own neck, the fool. What's the matter, Michael? Why are you shouting like that? It could be heard inside the house. Oh, isn't that gentleman over there Jim? I'm terribly sorry for causing a disturbance. Actually, I came today to discuss Michael's affair. The in-laws were undoubtedly shocked upon hearing Jim's words. They froze, mouths agape, as a silent tension enveloped the scene. After 10 seconds, Michael's father-in-law tentatively asked, "Is it true about the affair, Michael?" I can't believe Jim would joke about something like this. Can you explain it so we can understand? Dad, it's not true, I'm innocent. Jim is just presuming I'm guilty of an affair without any proof. I swear I haven't done anything like that, you can trust me. Linda, what's going on? I don't understand anything. Mother, I'm sorry to have shocked you. But what Jim is saying is true. Michael has been having an affair, and the other woman is Jim's wife. Now, I will prove it. After saying this, I pointed to a certain place. Michael and the in-laws looked where I pointed, but it was just the tent in the yard. Their confusion was palpable, but they were about to witness something shocking. I'm so sorry. The person who emerged from the tent was Lily Smith. Jim had not come alone, he was accompanied by Lily. So, the entire conversation had been overheard by Lily as well. The in-laws, meeting Lily for the first time, were startled to see an unknown woman stepping out of the tent. Meanwhile, Michael was profoundly shaken by the realization that his affair partner had been nearby all along. We don't need evidence, Michael. Lily has already fully admitted to the affair. Actually, we do have evidence, but having Lily prove it seemed faster. I also wanted to see your reaction, and you certainly showed your true colors, without realizing you were digging your own grave. Bringing Lily here, has she already told you everything? At Michael's question, Lily nodded silently. Once again, Michael's body trembled, and his face drained of color. Father, mother, as I mentioned earlier, I have been mistreated by Michael. I wasn't even informed about this living arrangement. I had to sleep in a tent in the yard because Michael commanded it. He considered me disposable due to my infertility and chose to have an affair with Lily. I don't get it. Michael, you told us, changing our environment might improve the chances of fertility treatments. Was that all a lie? You said you would support me, right, Michael? Instead of supporting, you were planning to abandon me. The in-laws' disappointment and anger finally brought Michael to his knees, and he prostrated himself on the ground, forehead rubbing fiercely against the earth. I'm truly sorry. I was shocked to discover Linda's infertility. Having children was my dream, so I thought if I couldn't have children with Lily, I'd need to remarry someone else. That's when I met Lily, thinking she could fulfill my dream. Michael trembled as he desperately confessed his feelings, seemingly realizing that excuses wouldn't work anymore. Without moving his forehead from the ground, he continued to apologize profusely. But then his body was suddenly flung to the ground with a dull thud. under the furious gaze of his enraged father-in-law. Linda wanted children too, didn't she? Have you ever considered her feelings, being unable to conceive? Do you think of your wife as property, to be discarded when no longer needed? What do you say, Michael? Answer me. I saw it for the first time. The usually gentle father-in-law expressing such rage. Yet his face was filled with sadness. Unthinkable that his beloved son could commit such inhuman acts behind the scenes. And still try to justify them. I've never been a parent, but the thought of my own child doing such things would tear me apart. As Michael lay on the ground, his mother approached with a similarly pained expression. Michael, I'm going to divorce you and claim alimony for the mental anguish you've caused. With that, I presented the already filled-out divorce papers. Michael, still prostrate, took them. Yet, in a shocking move, Michael retorted. Dad's right. A wife is just property to me, disposable when no longer needed. Clearly, it's all Linda's fault. Had I known about her infertility, I wouldn't have married her. Discovering it after marriage feels like a fraud. What alimony? You, the infertile one, should be paying. Don't you dare! My father-in-law grabbed Michael by the collar again, looking ready to beat him, but I intervened. Linda, why stop? Are you planning to forgive Michael? No, father. I will never forgive Michael. But I won't let you harm yourself over him. He's not even worth hitting now. Please let me handle this. My calm demeanor led the father-in-law to slowly release Michael's collar. After taking a deep breath, I pulled out a piece of paper and said to Michael, So everything is my fault because I'm infertile? Then, you're the bad one, right? Michael was speechless when he received the paper along with my words, as it contained results he had never anticipated. Me, infertile? I can't produce children? Indeed, the cause of infertility was not solely mine but also Michael's. I had requested him to just provide a sample for testing, as infertility is not always due to the woman. The results diagnosed Michael with azoospermia. There might be a chance for recovery with treatment, but it seemed difficult. I intended to inform Michael, but he was too engrossed in his affair to even have a proper conversation with me. Ironically, now was the first time we truly confronted each other after so long. I don't believe this. Is this some kind of setup by Linda? Trying to frame me won't work. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. You will eventually understand. My only desire is to sever ties with Michael and ensure he receives the consequences he deserves. Now, sign the divorce papers quickly. Are you serious with that tone? It's got to be a lie. Tell me it's a lie. Michael repeatedly reviewed the test results, head in hands. Jim, the in-laws, and I could only sigh deeply at his state. Lily seemed to be filled with regret as well. Leaving Michael behind, we stepped away from the new house, and Jim and his wife returned home to discuss further. The in-laws then apologized to me, expressing their regret. We might not have been aware, but we failed to see the pain Linda was going through. We don't expect forgiveness, but this is how we feel. We will do whatever we can for you. Even if you divorce Michael, we will always be on your side and ensure he takes responsibility. Just wait and see. There was no need for you two to apologize. I was at fault too, for not speaking up sooner and allowing myself to be pushed around. Plus, I almost caused you both a lot of trouble because of me. Actually, here I decided to reveal a fact I had kept hidden from my in-laws. They were surprised but chuckled at my thorough preparation, murmuring, "It's all Michael's doing." After that, the divorce with my husband was finalized, and I returned to my parents' home. It wasn't long before I received frantic calls from my ex-husband. "Linda, what's happening? This is all you're doing, isn't it? Answer me." There was not any leeway in his voice. Even over the phone, I could sense his utter desperation. Suppressing a laugh, I decided to spill the beans. Why so panicked? I don't know much, except maybe that the new house you bought is defective. Hey, stop joking around. I just realized it's uninhabitable because I've been too frantic to notice. What are you going to do about this? I'm not doing anything. You pushed the house hunting onto me, so I just followed your orders. You were the one who made the final decision to buy, right? Is there a problem? The decision to purchase the house with a yard was made solely by my husband, yet he dumped the entire search on me. At that point, I had already considered revenge, leading to my strategy of making him live in a defective house. You can check online for signs of a defective house, like uneven floors, ceiling checks, and door and window operations. I created a checklist and went to the viewings, choosing the property with the most issues. Judging by my ex-husband's reaction, it's safe to say my plan worked. The only miscalculation was his secret plan to live with my in-laws, which could have caused them great trouble, but now they live peacefully elsewhere, not with him. Linda, help me out. I can't afford to move with the alimony payments, and I've lost my job. There's also the fertility treatment. I truly regret everything. I shouldn't have cheated. I should have valued you more. So, you only realized you were wrong after finding out you're infertile? Well, that's good for you. You should reflect on your regrets and start over. Good luck living alone. Wait. Weren't we married? Don't abandon me, please listen to me. His self-centered remarks almost drove me to explode with anger. Being done with him, I found any further interaction merely troublesome. Yet, I had to make my point clear. A wife is not property to be discarded when no longer needed. Michael, you said that, remember? Let me reiterate, you are no longer needed in my life, you're expendable. Live with your regrets forever. Goodbye. I could still hear his voice through the phone, but I hung up without a second thought and blocked the number. He probably learned the hard way that some actions are irreversible. As for me, I started a blog and created videos about camping, enjoying a side income while engaging in my hobby. Jim, now divorced, had more free time and occasionally joined me for camping trips or helped with my video projects. I'm truly grateful that Jim and my in-laws stood by me. When I expressed my gratitude, Jim said, "Ignoring such a wonderful woman like you, Michael, really baffled me. If you ever need help, feel free to reach out." Perhaps due to my vulnerable state, my heart skipped a beat. But it wasn't until years later that I realized this flutter was real. Yes, Jim and I ended up getting married, but that's a story for another time.